remarks to the shortages of antibiotics, and of course that's the bill that the chairman referred to. Mr. Chairman, again, I appreciate you holding this hearing and the three panels of witnesses. The need for new antibiotics is well established and beyond question. Antibiotic resistance is a threat to global public health as well as the United States national security. Drug-resistant bacteria, like those featured, excuse me, Representative Pallone, I think I've been stricken with the same illness. Drug-resistant bacteria like those featured in the movie Contagion threaten American patients and troops in much the same way. Whether transmitted from person to person or contracted from a biological weapon, the overall threat is the same. As a physician, I understand how important it is that medical providers use antibiotics judiciously. But no matter how judiciously we use the current supply of drugs we have or will have in the coming years, we need more. To quote the testimony of Dr. Janet Woodcock of the FDA, the United States is, and I quote her, at a critical junction with regards to drug development. We are in urgent need of new therapeutic options to treat the resistant bacteria that we currently face, and we will need new therapeutic options in the future. This critical juncture requires immediate action if we are to prevent a public health disaster from hitting our shores in the next decade. I want to thank Dr. Woodcock for being here today, and I personally thank Dr. Margaret Hamburg for her leadership on this important issue as the director of the FDA. To Dr. Woodcock's testimony, antibiotic resistance cannot be solely solved by the development of new drugs, but it also be solved without them. In fact, we can answer every other problem with regards to antibiotic resistance. But if we fail to address the lack of incentives for drug companies and research and development experts in new antibiotic drug development, let me say this emphatically, we will lose this fight. As a group of bipartisan members of Congress, my co-authors and I have forwarded H.R. 2182, the Generating Antibiotic Incentives Now, or GAIN Act, to encourage new drug development. The legislation is a product of years of thoughtful consideration, and it strikes a balance between the need for drug companies' incentives and the needs and requirements of good public health policy. That balance is attested to in the nearly 50 organizations that currently support our effort. Their testimonials, which I will be entering into the record shortly, underscore the potential that the GAIN Act holds to ensure patients will continue to have the life-saving medications that they need. Among those, we count public health leaders like the Pew Charitable Trust, patient organizations including Kids v. Cancer, medical providers like St. Jude's Children's Hospital in Tennessee, and organizations representing 2.5 million veterans and wounded warriors, among others. The legislation as drafted focuses incentives on a list of unmet needs and life-threatening pathogens from which infections arise. These pathogens were identified by the Infectious Disease Society of America as looming threats to public health because little or no treatment currently exists to combat the infections that they cause. The legislation also includes, and this is most important, Mr. Chairman, the legislation also includes the ability for the FDA to update this list to meet new and emerging threats so that we continue to encourage the therapeutic options that FDA will testify are needed. To be clear, drug researchers and manufacturers in early development focus their efforts on identifying products that work against an identified pathogen. As an example, it included their ability to kill a specific or a variety of deadly bacteria. Only after a compound is identified as working against a specific pathogen do the scientists then focus on infection sites in the body in order to measure the efficacy of that potential drug. Some have questioned the need to be so specific with regards to the types of killer bacteria that we are focusing on in the GAIN Act. To that issue, let me read to you a sentence from one of the many support letters we have received. The GAIN Act definition ensures that unmet medical needs get the attention they deserve in an industry where other therapeutic areas often hold greater commercial promise. However, the incentives for development decreases dramatically if we are unable to know with a high degree of certainty that a product would qualify for the incentives in the GAIN Act in early phase development. In short, our ability to demonstrate to companies the incentives in the GAIN Act as early in the drug development process as possible is the foundation upon which our efforts rest. Mr. Chairman, I've gone over time. I'll go ahead and submit the rest of my comments for the record, and I look forward to the testimony of the three panels of witnesses.
All right, the Chair thanks the gentleman and yields recognizes the gentlelady from Illinois, Ms. Schakowsky, for 5 minutes for opening statement.
I really